Hello my friends, my name is Gorilla and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going over a 23 Tirna Scithe that was done just a few weeks ago, and even with the mistakes here and there, I thought it was a really fun key. Before we start, I think it's really important to go over the conduit builds and talents. I'm going the normal Rising Mist and Chiji build, nothing out of the ordinary for most content, with Sinister Teachings for Ventfear, and for my conduits it's fairly straightforward. I'm just trying to maximize as much DPS while still doing really great HPS. Alright, so to start off, this is not what I normally do. This is a guild group. I have to raid. I normally pug, but I want to do a few high keys with them. And right here, we're going to do an invis skip to skip the first two pulls. And that's normally, for one, to save lust and save cooldowns for the tormented, and also that pull is just really hard. So there's not really a point to do it when you can just skip it. And normally right here, I add the paralysis and ring of peace that mob away, but since we have a demon hunter, we can just walk right past. We CC one of the harvesters right there, just so we have less casts to kick, and it's going to put a little less on the tank, which he really needs a lot of help on this pull. At this point, Fallen Order runs out, so then I switch to Chiji on my bubble. Mobs are going to start to get enraged. This is when it gets really sketchy, especially for the tank. Everyone's going to start falling really low, but our warrior is a trooper, and he helps us all out. So at this point, I could have used Mana Tea right here, but I think just the stress of the situation really just made me not use it. But once that's down, it's all good. And I process that just so no casts go off. No unnecessary deaths. And at this point, when selecting, you always select Mana Chalice for Mistweaver. It's the only power that's usable. It's just a really great way to gain mana passively and limit your drinking. And while that pull may seem scary, it was the next pull I was actually worried about when we formed this group, and when we realized that it was raging, since these two mobs are especially heavy hitter. At this point, I'm saving Fallen Order just for their Thrash, because there's no overuse for it really. You can use it as a DPS cooldown with the conduit, but there's not really as much of a point, especially on a pull like this, where our healing will definitely be needed. And so I use it right here when it's thrashing, and everyone should be all good. Versus if it wasn't up, it would have been much more difficult, and I would have a lot less DPS. At this point, the pull's almost over, so I can start regaining a little bit of mana using those spheres from the Tormented. And as we see, without Fallen Order, the Thrash hits really hard. And once this pull is over, I'm going to immediately start to drink. And thankfully my group actually listened to me and they just let me sit for a few seconds. But in some pug groups, they just would go. And once I hit around 70, I'm just going to go. Because it's not really needed to have full mana on this fight. going to start phasing soon. And normally while I do use Fallen Order as a healing cooldown, right here I can use it as a DPS cooldown just to get a little more out of it. This is all just a burn phase, and especially on a fortified week, the healing is just not really needed on this type of fight. Especially while I still have Chi-Ji up and I have all my over cooldowns, so. Right here I Chi-Ji just to make sure that everyone's topped. And since we're going to the Fear, I was expecting that the dot would be right after, so I might as well pop it. And unfortunately it was not the dot, but the dot's right now, and it's not really going to matter all that much. We're going to get the boss down here. Super clean fight, super smooth. No problems at all. And at this point, we're going to start to do the maze. Normally, with Miss Call, you can actually see the first two by marking her or just watching where she goes, but I was kind of lazy this time around, and I actually did not really see the second gateway. But normally as a healer, your job, especially in the maze, is just to figure out the pathway, as much as I love to DPS as a Mistweaver, it's not the top priority. Right here I revival just to make sure everyone's topped. It was kind of getting a little sketchy, so might as well pop it, especially since the next few pulls will not be that scary. And on this one, you can either take the haste buff or Sanguine Ichor, but I normally like Sanguine Ichor just a little more, just because it adds a tad bit more damage and also helps with your healing just a bit. At this point, I'm just going to use my handy dandy add-on to figure out the way we go. If I would have Fortified Brew up right there, I would use it just because that dot on me is really, really heavy. Even though I do have Fallen Order up, so it won't matter that much. Right there, Ring of Peace, just because I see the mobs are enraging. I know that the tank's going to be in a bit of trouble. And after this, I fully accept my responsibility of finding the way, so most of the time I'll just mark them, and then once that's over, I'll just go and find out the rest of the maze. Since the pull's almost over, I can finish up the maze, and we're going to head on to the next one. This one I just go full on, find the pathway. I really didn't have to use Fallen Order there, but it's just going to help the pull go a little smoother. All in all, it won't really matter that much since Fallen Order can go down to about like a 30-second cooldown even in Mythic Plus. At this point, I'm just getting ready to go to the next area. I'll try to Tiger's Dust my tank there just so we can go a little bit faster. And thankfully for us, we did get the easiest, at least in my opinion, of the little mini bosses in here. So there's nothing really to worry about. Except for my good old friend Hog, which I don't even know how he died there. Could have been due to the bite from aggro or something, but the world will never know. Normally, you don't dispel that. You dispel the tank whenever he needs it, but in that case, he managed to kite it away, so it's perfectly fine. It's also really, really quick at dispelling. Another really nice thing of this group was explosives, as we had a Frost Mage and he had no issues hitting majority of them, so I kind of just got to go full on DPS mode on majority of the fights. So with these mobs, you can't ring a piece them away or do anything, so it's really just all in the tank to make sure to get out of there. And we're coming up on the final part of the maze soon. This is definitely, in my opinion, the most boring part for healers. Not very interesting or fun. But I apply, now I go figure out the maze, and have not so much fun. And now we're on to Mistcaller, which really is not too tough, but especially on a week with explosives, it definitely requires a little bit of coordination between the DPS and you. Right here I DPS pot, just so I can make sure I have a little more damage in. And you don't really need to use any type of healer pot, mana pot, or anything like that in Mythic Plus. Now in this fight specifically, you basically just save all your cooldowns for guessing games. So for example, on one of them we can use Fallen Order, on another one we can use Chi-Ji, and on the last one we can use Fallen Order. All kind of just depending on timing and such. Touch of Death is also just really, really great in this fight, just so you can get out the face a little bit quicker. Yep, right here I use Chi-Ji just so it It's a little more fluid on the healing, as it still does damage even on a Tyrannical week. And sadly, we did not manage to be able to in-cap or stun that fox, so we had to kind of improvise by me stunning it. And right there is another really unfortunate placement. So the wolf, or the fox, just kind of has to run free for a little bit while the demon hunter kites around. Another really unfortunate placement of the fox, as it's going to run straight through the blizzard, but shouldn't be too bad. It's just a little unfortunate for our demon hunter friend. And that's that fight down. This next part gets a little sloppy, but we still time the key nonetheless. So in this dungeon specifically, we decided to skip Sagadon and go for Cold Heart. It doesn't really matter that much. Some people skip both, some people skip one or the other, but for this group specifically, it's what we wanted to do. And normally this pull is not too stressful, but we were kind of goofing off at this point, having fun. There were just a few slip-ups here and there. Normally with this mechanic as well, I normally move out for the DPS, as I'm not really a priority as much as them, so especially with two melees inside the group. Right here, none of the powers really matter. I take the stunning one just because in this specific situation, that extra stun when they're all raging is going to be a little bit helpful, but all three are okay, all three are good options in some form or fashion. And right here we're going to do a double pull, and this double pull does not really go as intended, but that's okay. As you see, we already got hit once. At this point, we're going to start kiting. I stun them just to give my tank a little bit of time to run away. Everything is getting a little stressful, especially because of the explosives. And at this point, I realize that I'm on the explosive duty. Crackling Jade Lightning takes him out really, really well, as it's a one-shot and you can swap to him really, really quick. So I'm barely inside melee. I'm mostly just focusing on explosives and healing right here. And as you see, I used bubble right there just to alleviate a little bit of damage when they're all raging, but it didn't even matter. It went in an instant. Which really goes to show how scary and raging actually is. At this point, I think all of us are just on edge about those green swirlies. So we may be a little more passive. Sadly, a lot of my manatee gets wasted there out of movement, but it really does not matter all too much. And we're going to do another double pull here. This pull is a lot less scary because there's not really any kicks, and it's technically much smaller. Just a lot less priority targets. Right here I also GG just because it is getting a little sketchy. At this point, we have plenty of time. We just have to take it safe. We gotta play well. We have Lust up, so we could definitely go boss here, but we're just gonna do another pack because we don't have cooldowns yet. Loss without cooldowns is not too great, so we just do one extra pack for that. Out there, I'm getting a little afraid for the tank, so I put an enveloping on him just because I know they're going to start raging soon. And even though he's a beast of a tank, I know that sometimes not even that can help you out against the raging. Now we go to boss. I'm going to take a bit of a drink just because this boss can be a bit sketchy sometimes. I'll use another damage pot. I'm going to fall in order for a DPS cooldown, and we're going to get going. And the key to this boss is just to move as little as you can for those swirls, or else then it's going to start getting to a big old pile of mess. And right there, I just move a little too not enough, which is a bit unfortunate that it moved just a little bit to me, but we'll still make it through this. And I learned my lesson right there to move right before. And we're back to DPSing the boss. Right here it's going to get a little scary, but I bring a piece right there to get the ads away from my friend. I realize it's on me there, so I'm just trying to get out of the group as fast as possible. If you want, you can also just use door shadows to get out, but any way to get out, especially as a monk, is quite easy. right here. Since the boss is so low, I'm just not taking any chances now. I'm going to move as much as I really want. And I'm just going to door shadows out. Both to get away from the ads and also to get away from the tether. Fortunately, the warrior dies right there, but... So where the boss fight just gets really scary. When it's this late in, it's going to start just really being a scary dodge pattern. Along with the explosives from the ads. And boss is down, so now we just gotta do the last little bit of trash and we'll be good to go. And right there, our Demon Hunter just takes aggro from our tank, which is really unfortunate. We don't have any B-reses available right now, so he has to run back as fast as possible. Thankfully he was a Demon Hunter, so that's not too hard for him to do, but... At this point, I just Mana Tea just so I can get more spinning crane kicks in. Sometimes Mana Tea could just be used just to lower the cooldowns and the cost of your damaging spells. Demon Hunter is back. We're ready to go to the next pack. We're going to instantly pull as we see the timer is kind of ticking down. I take aggro there just for a second. I roll out. Just out of reflex. This is another really tough pack, which is unfortunate, but we'll make it through it. And this time, even though we're losing aggro, Fallen Order and Shiji are both just keeping the team alive, so tank can actually just bounce back. But anyways, that's the key. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.